All right, we are live. I'm going to wait for just a minute to see if everybody's connected and talking to each other, whether StreamYard and all of that. Okay, looks like there we go. Now we're all connected up. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Uh, Today is Deconversion Hangout, so a little bit stricter moderating and all that stuff. Definitely no preaching allowed for you theists that might be listening in. For the rest of you, this is a support live stream for anybody leaving their faith or wants to talk about deconstruction, or they're dealing with somebody who's deconstructing and they want to be more helpful, all that stuff. And what topics we cover usually depends on what questions people have about it at that time. So thanks everybody for stopping by. Just a note, you do have to be a subscriber to the channel to participate in chat, and you have to be that for at least 20 minutes. It kind of gets rid of the drive-by theists, so that like to play their games. So thanks everybody for stopping by. Just a couple of announcements. Saturday's live stream will be me and the lovely I Killed Earl. We'll be talking autism, where you can ask us questions and we'll go back and forth. So for Autistic Awareness Month, so we'll be doing that stream together. Is one I look forward to. I think we did this. Our first stream together actually was about autism a long time ago on the Kentucky Atheist. So I'm always looking forward to talking with Earl. She's much more knowledgeable about this stuff in a more technical sense, and I'm the guy that's basically just discovered in the last couple of years that he's autistic and trying to come to terms with it still. So it's kind of like it's fun. So there's that. But let's get a roll call. Let's see. Cranky Elder God was the first one to show up. Fred is here, but dashing in and out. Paul in here. Lisa's here. So Rinka, all right. So you got a chance to show up again. Okay, yeah, I get there. And then we have Azo is here. Ronald at Indian Lake is here. Kyle. Yes, Earl is autistic. Yes, she is. I have no idea how to say that. So, but hi. But yes, Earl is autistic. I'm autistic. So she's a good example of why autism expresses itself in girls and boys differently. So it's with a lot of us, you wouldn't guess unless we told you, because we're adults, so there's that. Hey, Tux, good to see you. Girls just play nuts. Okay, asshole. She's not here yet. I'm going to keep this comment up, though. It's good to see Jimmy, though. Yes, good to see Jimmy. Agreed. Yeah, Cranky had a comment about deconstruction earlier, and I want to talk about it because it's a good discussion starter. It says, I can see one of the reasons that deconstruction is so difficult. Yahweh is a malignant narcissist, and that type of emotion manipulation is difficult to overcome. It's it's one of those interesting things is how religions reflect their God. And so if you have a character like Yahweh, people think that because he's good, so it's much more difficult, to overcome when a whole religion is based on that. And yeah, there's a lot of manipulative, narcissistic behavior that's justified, particularly in my former religion of Christianity. So to figure out how to mask as we get older and watch how others do it. Yes. Yes, I've made the joke I'm the world champion of autistic masking. when it comes to that. But most autistic people that are adults become that too. So there's that. I don't know if she'll be here today. She's going to be there Saturday, though. Yes, in a sense. I've been in therapy since I left the faith. Oh, gosh. I started meeting with my therapist twice a month. It's been going on for quite some time, but a couple of years ago, she kind of put two and two together. And after dealing with me for so long, she says, Ed, I think you're autistic. Why don't you, here's some research to read and some basic tests to do. They're free, and see what happens. And yeah, when you take those tests and do the stuff and it says, hey, 95% chance that you're on the autistic spectrum, and then you look at it and go, yeah. So it fits. So yes, Earl's usually fashionably late. She's a busy woman. So let's see. There's God is almighty, might make sure so the Father's force is an acceptable way of maintaining their authority. Yes. And this happens with deconstruction too. I had last stream we had a couple of people who are deconstructing. I think Iron was one of them, and a few others that complain that people are constantly trying to manipulate them back into the church. There's definitely some manipulative nature of faith that allows that. Like Christianity doesn't have a problem. Like if hey, I don't want you to proselytize, don't talk to me about that. Like a good example is our live streams where I tell people not to preach and they can't help themselves. Okay, because all is justified, including violence, if it'll save a soul. This is played out in the Middle Ages big time, because you'd have these wars take place, and if a pagan culture lost the war, they were forced to become Christian. You better comply, or else you're going to have a problem. So might makes right. Any type of force, whether political, physical, emotional, manipulative, is justified if when the ends justify the means. The problem is when your ends are imaginary. Okay, like there's no proof that there's an afterlife or a hell to shun or any of that stuff. It really just comes off as presumptuous, and a lot of people deconverting end up facing the fact that there's a whole bunch of people that just keep trying to pull you back in. It's very much a thing where you're trying to be pulled back into something that you don't want to be a part of anymore, but people are constantly feeling justified that they have to get you back in. And I try to see it from other people's perspective, but it gets annoying. Okay, so that's fine. Yeah, there's a lot of free tests for autism. They can't like give you a definitive diagnosis, and getting a definitive diagnosis is expensive and also difficult because there's so few people that can actually do the tests. So a lot of us have to rely on other means. But I've been in therapy for a long enough time, and my therapist kind of, after a long analyst of my brain, says, hey, I think your brain's autistic. Which explains a lot. It explains a lot of my life. So the current and sick nature of Christianity is forced, whether they want to admit it or not. Yeah, it's the rewards and punishment system. Like if any political, social, religious group has a reward and punishment system, that's a motivation system. So it's why I get leery when everybody says, hey, this is the reward, but this is the punishment for not doing it. Sometimes the punishment for not doing something is nothing. So, that. Let's see. Rika, what did you partake in as a part of your deconstruction as you moved on from theism? I'm good, but I'm still watching debates and informative videos. I know this is going to sound weird. Well, maybe not. when I was deconstructing, I was still in the church and I was still a pastor. So when I was coming out of theism, I I bought a lot of books. Like I had the Four Horsemen pretty much in my library. Like God is not great, the God delusion. Um, I never really got into Harris, but one of the books that was really instrumental to me was Caught in the Pulpit by Daniel Dennett. And he wrote that with some, man, it escapes me who he wrote that book with, but it was so fit me because I felt trapped in the pulpit. And he was talking about how, many pastors were leaving the faith. This was written back in 2012, I think. And I ended up doing a lot of that. And I was like, people had asked me why I was reading that stuff for. And I was like, well, I'm trying to get a handle on what they argue and stuff like that. But what was really happening was my own faith was slowly being eaten away. Since leaving, I think doing this channel is my is my big thing in deconstructing. I'm trying to help other people get through it. This live stream in particular has been very instrumental in helping me a little bit because people come here and they have all kinds of questions, and when it's legit, I have a great time with it. It's the preachers that usually I have a problem. So I still watch a lot of atheist YouTubers. I still read things from time to time. But my deconstruction has now moved on to what I would call the phase of reconstruction, of trying to rebuild my life after so many years of being a theist, so many years of being a pastor, having a different life that's acceptable to myself, is really the focus right now. So, and part of that is what I do here. And another part of it is working out how to be a better advocate for people who are deconstructing and things like that. So, hey, Alex, good to see you. Let's see, Star Song. I was witnessing shooting earlier today. I get my statements played. Don't think I will be called into court, as I only heard it, didn't see it. Yeah, probably not. And even if you are called in, they're going to have the forensics higher than eyewitness testimony, because they're going to, unless they got every, police do a good job. If this is why the Gospels don't work, by the way. Police do a good job of getting the witness separated before they get a chance to talk to each other. They usually get better eyewitness testimony results, but that's not the case for a lot of things. And that's why the Gospels don't work. Eyewitness testimony is very interesting, Star Song. You should read up on it. But I agree. You only heard it. All they can get out of you is a time of when the shooting took place. And so that's about it. Anne Marie, good to see you. Kevin Berry. My deconversion said I was never a convert. 52 years old now, and I've never had a single reason to believe in supernatural is real. I am more or less a lifelong atheist. Well, that is great for you. Because I think, there are some of us in the deconversion camp that are envious of you. Religion is so prevalent in our society that people that are kind of bridges like me and others, I think, are helpful to people deconverting. But I am very happy when I see people that have avoided the traps of religion their entire life. I think that's great stuff. So, see, Ronald from Indian Lake, at Indian Lake. I heard a radio preacher last night say that the earth and climate change isn't something to be concerned about. They said that earth is basically expendable since God will destroy it. It made me sick. Yes, it's the religious belief of the end of a world scenarios are probably the ones that bother me the most, like those trying to bring about the apocalypse. When I got out of that, I began to realize how alarming that is, because it can either lead you to do one of two things. You're either going to be apathetic to the future of the human race and the planet, or you're going to actively seek about its end. Like Islamic believers, there are some fundamentalist camps that are trying to end the world so they can get things going. But yes, it's one of the mentalities that changed for me immediately is okay, if this is the only life I've got, and this is the only planet I can live on, and this is the only group of humanity there is, I might want to be concerned about it and make it better, okay, instead of worse. But yes, I think what you're hitting on here is how belief can shape your view of people around you. It's the whole idea of everybody being a sinner. makes you look at humanity differently too. Like everybody's crap except your little in group, right? Everybody's the garbage except for your in group. Well, they're all sinners and they're all going to hell. And, the Baptist Calvinist theology gets worse. Like we're all elect and they're not. Okay. The justifications that faith does of just being apathetic to what's going on around in life, like there's definitely that opiate effect, where people just don't care because their religion basically says, I don't have to care about that. I got an afterlife to go to. So, yeah. Apparently living by your own morals is a terrible thing and we need to have a higher power. No, not really. I think it was last stream somebody talked about purpose and they talked about morality, and it's like human morality is human. Okay, everybody has like a moral code, whether it's like formal or informal. You all have a way that you live. I mean, like we had a guy last time who's, was one of the many versions of Maverick. Like you don't have a reason to live and you don't have any reason to be moral, and it's like nobody holds you accountable. And like my fellow human beings hold me accountable. Morality is social. It's not individual. It's individual and social. Like every other one of us has our own individual morality, but if that morality is unacceptable to the society will let us know. Okay. And so having good empathy and caring about others is a very good survival trait. Okay. Because it endures you to other people. And I don't, I've never understood this argument, Alex. It's just straight up insulting. And I tell theists this when they say I don't have any basis for morality. I'm like, I have plenty of basis for morality. Good work, living a life that's at peace. There's just like so much good reasons for morality in this life. They're always looking to the future. And since I became an atheist and deconverted, I far much more look at the present and where I'm living now, because that's what matters, than I do to the future as much. I'm still concerned about the future and concerned about the welfare of humanity and the planet, but I also recognize there's very little I can do by myself. I need the help of my fellow apes. So there's that. Got a Star Song. Thanks, Star Song. Appreciate the financial support as always. Atheist here. In Revelation, it says God will destroy those who destroy the earth. God, who I don't believe in, won't have to lift a finger to destroy us. We're going to do it ourselves. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do worry about that, Star Song. And when people ask me why I'm an anti-theist, this is one of the chief reasons. Ronald brought up a great point that a lot of religions have this apocalyptic end of the world scenario they're aiming for. It's not just that they're being apathetic. Some of them are deliberately trying to bring us there. Like the whole, Israel's the nation of God, and so therefore we have to support them mentality has led to a lot of problems over the last few decades. There's, I don't care about the planet kind of thing, because God's going to wipe it out anyway and replace it. It's really kind of a weird mentality, because I do worry that we are going to destroy this world ourselves. Okay. When I was younger, I lived through this thing called the Cold War, where we definitely had that capability of wiping, at least, the planet was going to be fine, as George Carlin reminds us, but, we could wipe ourselves right off of it. We're going to, destroy us. So that's that. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Yeah, see, Katie's here. Evening, fellow infidels. Some people say that deconstruction often leaves ex-believers without a foundation to build their life on. And I think we definitely should always try to help people even after their deconstruction. It's why I've said there's the moment that you realize your religion is false, okay, and that's the moment you start deconstructing it. but I've also, this is why I say there's deconversion, and deconversion has two parts. And this is me. Okay. There's the deconstructive aspects where you're pulling away stuff that's religious thinking, religious ways of doing things, stuff that you were taught that's false, getting rid of all that stuff. But then there's also, okay, well, what do I build my worldview on? Okay. And I've often said atheism can't be a worldview by itself. It can influence your worldview, but not by itself. It only asks one question, or is there a God? And it answers that no. Based on the current evidence, I would say no. And so there's a whole bunch of other packle things in a worldview that doesn't reflect on your belief in God, or whether you believe in a God or not. And so a lot of that foundation shifts. I would say, human morality, building that on human beings is not a bad foundation. The problem is they don't want to acknowledge that there are foundations for which to build a worldview without a God. They don't want to acknowledge that. They may disagree with those foundations. They may dislike them. I get pissed off when they say I don't have any. Okay. I do have foundations for my worldview and my morality and stuff. It's just they disagree with them. They don't think that's possible without some divine command, whatever. And I point out to them that divine command isn't any better until you figure out A, if a God exists, and B, which one it is. I really don't have to follow a divine command morality. And they don't really either. I don't see too many Christians, for instance, thinking that slavery is a good thing, but their Bible teaches it. And once upon a time, everybody thought it was a good thing. So, it's that even Christians have changed their way they interpret the Bible to get a different morality. So it's human. Katie, I was never a strong Christian, but certainly was a believer in God. The problem I have is losing my empathy for those that do believe. Yes, and that's a challenge for us that have deconverted. I think for me, because I was so long into it, maybe because I was such a strong Christian and very indoctrinated, I have a lot more empathy for that. It might be an experiential thing you've experienced. But yes, I get you, because we see believers do kinds of dumb things. They do real crappy things, and we're like, how do I have empathy for that? When you realize it's about indoctrination, then I think what you end up doing is you end up realizing, okay, yeah, there is as much a victim of indoctrination as anybody else. It's why I still view my parents, who are very religious, very positively, because I feel like they were victims of indoctrination too. And I wonder if my dad had lived past 50, how he would have felt about things now with my deconversion, because I would have sat down with him and said, this is why I no longer believe. And I wonder what he would have had to say, because my parents once upon a time had been like 1960s, liberals in that age, and then they became religious. So I have to wonder, what that would do. What part of Calvinist theology did I disagree when I was a theist? All of it. Okay. I was a very free will Arminian, open theist theology at the end of my time as a Christian. And I never really bought into the Calvinist thing, because to me, it undercut the justice of God. Like, how could God create people for damnation and then justify throwing them into an eternal torment when he created them for that purpose? It's like, what the hell? That seems kind of mean and evil, quite frankly, evil. So yeah. Our law system does keep us moral. I mean, I can't go out and do whatever I want, so can I? If I did, and the thing is, I don't really want to do what people say that I would do. Like, I don't want to hurt people. That supposed weakness of human empathy causes me not to want to hurt my fellow human beings, because I know what it's like to be hurt. So I don't know. So there's that. But yeah, it's it's amazing how our fellow humans keep us in check all the time, more than we actually do. See, cranky elder god. One thing about Christian morality, I can show up at a random girl's bedroom and tell her, "Congratulations, you're having my belly." Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to do the Yahweh Holy Spirit thing, you can do that, cranky. I mean, I'm sure they're more than capable. I mean, she'd probably have to get used to the tentacles, but sure. Yeah, I know. A lot of people use the moral argument against Christians or against atheists, like we don't have any morality. It's like, yeah, I do. You don't agree with it. So I do have to remind you, Crank. Well, I don't know if you're doing the Holy Spirit Mary scenario, then yeah, you don't have to pay the shekels or the price to the dad, I guess. So yeah, I mean, if you're a mere mortal, you would have to do that. So yes, this is the poison of religion. People are either apathetic or they want to accelerate the end of humanity. It's kind of a sick duality with a lot of religions. Like all the Abrahamic religions had like an end of the world theology somewhere in them, and some of them are very fundamentalist about that theology. So yes, apocalypse mindset plus nuclear weapons. What could go wrong? This is why people ask me why the United States works so hard to keep nukes out of the hands of certain countries, and it's because of the mentality. Like, yeah. Let's see. Revelation 11:18. The nations were angry, your wrath has come. The time has come for judging the dead and for rewarding your servants, the prophets, your people revere your name, both. Yeah, great and small, for destroying those and for destroying those who destroy the earth. Yeah, it's interesting that in the book of Revelation, God is basically the one destroying the planet, but once again, he blames people for not being righteous enough, and that's why he's doing it. The Revelation, yeah, I don't know. It's the one case where I think being high on something and reading a book might give it better insight. Because now I get what was going on. But yeah, I stayed away from that book as much as possible when I was a preacher. There's just too many sticky things to go. But yes, God has this "I'm going to wipe everything out because it's bad" thing. And you get the new heavens and the new earth because the old has passed away. And because of that notion, a lot of believers who are very fundamentalist don't give a damn about the planet or the people around them or anything like that. I mean, they don't want to live in filth and squalor, but the fact that other people do doesn't seem to bother them that much. The time will never come, but Christianity can't get over it. No, they have to stick with it. My thoughts on early Christianity is that it was very much an apocalyptic cult, that when the predictions didn't come true from their leader, like if Jesus was a real person and he did really do this, like, I'm coming back and, this generation will not taste of death before I do. And then that all failed. I mean, whether he did that or not, apparently, Paul certainly believed that, and the way he writes certainly believes that. So it's like, it's something that's ingrained into Christianity that they can't get over. They have to have the second coming of Jesus, or it doesn't make a lot of sense. And they've modified that, redone it, explained it away. They've done everything they can in their power to, you know, to not realize that their prophet was a false one and Paul was a nut. Okay, they can't get past it. And thank you, Cranky Elder God. Yeah, yes, give that like button a gentle rub as we remind people, be consensual, but the like button is very consensual. So, but thank you, Cranky. I appreciate it. The 666 is always gets me a giggle. So, as Earl points out, like button is a slut. Okay. Yes. All right. So, but welcome, Earl. We were talking about you earlier. Um, so, depends on how you deal with it. I think all economic systems, because they can be ideologies too, you can turn them into cults. I would say that if you look like at the Soviet Union, that's definitely turning the state into a religion, and communism is a big part of that. So, but I don't know, economic systems are weird because they have cult like followings, but they also, I don't know, there's not enough there, so, to me, to make that. So, Eat the Planet of the Apes, whole thing's great. So I love how those old movies show the hypocrisy in religion. Yes. I don't, yeah. Crouch potatoes of the world unite. I think Katie says, I think part of my problem is that Christians are seeking to destroy me and those like me. Yes. My issue with how theists treat me now that I'm an atheist is it's like they do things to me that they wouldn't do um, to other people simply because I'm an atheist. Like I suddenly have ceased to become a human being to some of them. And that's what bothers me the most. You see that every now and then in the chat here when a theist joins the chat. It's like there's no thought of I'm being rude. There's no thought of how harmful that is to say certain things to certain people, like how insulting things are. They don't care, okay, because you're no longer a person to them, and that's a big problem. So, and it's why what we're talking about earlier, like I still try to treat theists like human beings because it goes a long way into diffusing a lot of that. So. If Fred, Christianity doesn't have to be banned for human society, but yet it generally you can't ignore reality and expect to function safely in it. Yes, I think that's the big issue that I have. As a deconverted person who's an atheist, I can't ignore reality anymore. Reality is there. So. Oh. Let's see. Actually, Earl. Here, guys, Earl changed one of the art pictures, and I want to show that to you. Here, let me pull up the original. But you guys remember this one, the Mormonians, which is a great name, by the way. It's still a great name. But she sent me this one, which is a modification of this same picture. And I like this one better. So I was actually looking at it. It's definitely improvement with the lightning bolt. I thought that was maybe there's other reasons for why the onions are crying, but yes, this one got my heart going. It's still one of the funniest pictures that I've seen in a while. So, but yes, I absolutely enjoy this one, but I love the changes, Earl. I want to share that with everybody else because I don't think I've done that yet. So, but yeah, this is so now there's this version and then this version, depending on what mood you're in, I guess. But yeah, this is great stuff, and I wanted to thank. So yes, apocalyptic Utah. Yes, where's that, Michael? Yeah, yes, apocalyptic Utah. But yes, but yeah, there's that. I got another super chat here, so I'm going to deal with that. I got a thunder. Oh, which one? I hate to be specific, God of Thunder, but which one? Um, you know, Thor, Baal. There's several. Yeah. I feel like the end times of Christianity are near. It's shrinking, inviting fast. Any thoughts, consequences? I think, like all long-term religions, it's going to die very slowly. I think there's a reason why there's a rise in presuppositionalist apologetics, and you see it actually in even the mainstream apologists have some element of presuppositionalism. Like, you have to prove me wrong. Okay, I don't have to prove anything. You have to prove me wrong, kind of attitude. And it's because of the emotional attachment people have to faith. Um, Emotional attachments are more difficult to break than almost anything, because we're talking about something that hits the pleasure centers of the brain, and that becomes very addictive. I saw it with Pentecostals all the time. They have such a high experiential Christianity that it's very, very hard to get them on. But I've experienced God. And so it's like, no matter how much you prove that their stuff is, garbage, bollocks, whatever you want to call it, they still cling to it. And I think that's the biggest problem that we're going to have with getting rid of any religion is like there's an emotional attachment to it. And so it's definitely with one of those things that I don't think is going to go away. I think it's near. I agree with you. Am I going to see it in my lifetime? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think so. I think the rise of a presuppositional apologetics, where you have these apologists that are just like, I don't have to prove anything. You have to prove me wrong. And when we get to that point in the discussion, it's very, very difficult. I mean, all of us atheists complain about how difficult it is to talk to a pre-supper, because a pre-supper has basically encapsulated a little bubble around their core beliefs that you can't touch because, reasons. So there's that. Yeah. There's also some good. See, I really kind of want to push back just slightly against the idea that amazing how Christian turned billions of people into douchebags. I think, I don't know. I'm I know a lot of Christians that are good people that don't like what's going on. Like, they don't like Christian nationalism. I know I didn't when I was a Christian. So yeah. The title of that one, A Visitor from Outer Darkness. Okay. I can see that. Good to say. Well, thank you, Asho. I appreciate you, man. For those of you who don't know, Asho is like my longest running member. He's been like a year and a half now. People ask him, but yes, it's. But yeah, I don't know if we have a new God. I see the thing with Fangs is I'm trying to integrate him into a lot of the deity systems. Like, I'm taking the approach with the theology of Fangs of a deity is as strong as his worshipers make him. Like, the more people that you get praying and worshiping a deity, the stronger they become. So, that's why the old gods are making a revival and a few others. So I agree. I do think it's in its death throes. How long is that going to take? I mean, we still have, like, I know everybody's heard that the Pope died. And does anybody else think, like, when I'm looking at the Pope in his casket, the way his hands were, did anybody else get the image of the Emperor from Star Wars at that point? Because I certainly hell did. But you still have this 1 billion people Roman Catholic Church that's not going anywhere. Okay. Not soon. That's still having this conclave thing to pick another pope. It's a tradition that goes back 2,000 years. That's going to take a while to kill. I think the problem with religions is they're big monsters, and no single hero is going to kill them. Okay. It's going to take a long, arduous path. So there's that. I agree. Pre-sup is very much in vogue because they're losing. Okay. And so when you're losing, you got kind of like, I'm going to take my ball and go home. It's really to me, the reason why I don't really debate pre-supper, I don't debate anybody really, but I would never debate a pre-supper because it's like at some point in the debate, they're going to grab their ball and go home kind of thing. If for those of you that played any kind of sports on the playground when you were a kid, you'll get the analogy, but yeah, I really feel like that every time I hear one of them or listen to a debate between an atheist and one of them. It's like at some point, this person's going to say, well, you have to prove me wrong. Okay, you have to prove to me, and the problem is that proof exists. Like, I think the fact that there's no evidence whatsoever for the first 6 books of the Bible is pretty good evidence that it didn't happen. But they'll say, well, it's I think Turek came out with a video recently, like, yeah, there's this grand, glorious Egyptian conspiracy to cover up the fact the Israelites were there. Like, what? How do you maintain a conspiracy for 400 years plus? Like, I don't know. Hey, Ashura, good to see you. Bang in German is catch. Is a catch. Okay. All right. It's different. Yeah. To us, it's pointy thief. Pointy teeth. So I'm not the only one. Like, I'm looking at him in his coffin, the way his hands are, because they got him out like that. And I'm like, why am I thinking Star Wars 6 with somebody about to like come out of a coffin and shoot lightning bolts at somebody? So I don't know. But yeah. Do I think that people stay in religion because of tradition and how long it's been around? I do think that, yeah. I know for a fact, Alex, that there are people that attend church simply because of the social aspects. They don't believe a damn thing there, but they go there because they have contacts there, they have friends there, it's a social standing thing. That idea first popped into my head a long time ago when I was a theist and I was reading Robert Heinlein, and I think I was reading his last book. And the main character makes the observation that people attend the church based on their social status. And the more I thought about it, I couldn't shake the idea that they were right. So, yeah. The bigger religions are going to take a while to break down, but I think the small ones will. I don't know. Cults are harder. Which is harder to get rid of? A big monster or a bunch of little monsters that reproduce so fast it's hard to keep up. It's a good one. And I think some of the bigger religions are going to try to adopt a more progressive world. I know currently the Mormons are, as I just had some JDL that they don't shun for looking at apostate material anymore. Oh, so now we're not going to shun for certain things. It's kind of like a lot of religions end up changing because of society. I know the Assemblies of God used to have very strict rules on certain things, but it lifted them because it was like, if we don't lift this rule, we're going to lose people. And I think that's really what's going to start happening. You're going to see religions become something completely different because of that. So I don't know. We'll see. Presupposition one is knowing you have no reasonable argument but refusing to fail. Yes. Oh. Pope is just a symptom of the Catholic Church, which is a symptom of Christianity. Yeah, that's probably true. Katie says, I was surprised this Pope lasted as long as he did. He was not popular among his peers, far too liberal. Wouldn't be the first Pope to be eliminated. Also wouldn't be the first progressive pope in my lifetime. I think John Paul II was kind of progressive, but John Paul I, he didn't last very long. He got assassinated, and he was more progressive than John Paul II. So, and I think that's why I think you have a valid point that he might have been gotten rid of because of that. But that's a conspiracy theory with no evidence, so I'm gonna leave it there. But John Paul II was kind of progressive. He walked that line pretty well. That's why he was so popular. But this guy, I don't know, way too liberal for a lot of Catholic tastes. I predict that the next pope will be a little bit more conservative. They tend to go back and forth like that. So it's like a Fisher. Okay. Hey, Dave. Yeah, I know it's 75 where I'm at, West Michigan. It's the first 70-degree day we've had. So everybody's like hanging in there. So, uh, yes, a lot of people go to church as a social function. This is probably the unspoken weakness of most religions. Is a lot of people go for the social functions, and if something were to replace that social function in their life, um, they dump the religion because they know it's bullshit. Okay, there are so many people who don't believe what their religion teaches but go to church anyway. I know that for a fact. My last church was very open, very independent. I literally had people in the pews that told me, I don't believe any of this stuff, but it's fun being here. So um, I had deists in my crowd. I think the only thing I didn't have was an atheist, but I had every branch of Christianity represented, and stuff like that. So it was interesting that a lot of them were just there because they felt that going to church was a good function. The guy who built my church, Mr. Blodgett, back in the 1800s, you can look up Hersey Congregational Church. It's a beautiful, like 4-story Gothic structure. That was built by Mr. Blodgett with a $3,000 donation, which was a huge sum of money back then. And he didn't believe a damn thing, but he felt that communities needed a place to go worship. And so he built them one. So and that was pretty much it. So, yes, all hail Bigfoot, captive desk in the house. Mm. Um, I see. This is the thing. I think what we're going to see is a very cultic devotion to religion as religions get more evidence against them, and we come up with alternative explanations. But I think you're right. There's always going to be part of humanity doesn't that's going to be counterculture and not get with the program. But I mean, I fight against that, but I agree with you. I think that there's always going to be some level of culticness in the human species. Getting rid of that is going to be very, very difficult. So, um, I may do that. I've experimented. Me and Earl have kind of done a couple of things together, but I think I'm trying to motivate some of you to like do more super chats. So what I think I might do is like I don't know, I'd have to do it like on a Friday night, but like if we get enough stuff and I can get it together, I might do an open panel on a Friday night. So, but I have a leeriness to this asshole because I've had a couple bad experiences. So, but yeah, the more people get in a room, I know the last time we had one on your channel, I had a blast. So so I've had good experiences with it too. But yeah, I'm I'm leery of that because every time I do it, because of the name, the Rabid Atheist, when I do an open panel discussion, the theists show up and they want to get on. And I've had that happen several times now. And it's like, yeah. So I don't know. but I'm not against participating in them, as many people know. Manga. Actually, there's shit. Where did I see it? I know that there's Trump signed Bibles. I know there's that. I also know, yeah, there's probably somebody who's done something along that line. So, yes, I thought so. There is a Trump Bible. Trump does have a Bible. You can order it. So I'm sure. I don't know what it's probably obscenely priced though. And it's probably got that gaudy gold shit all over it that he seems to like so much. So, made a deal with Reagan to get support in Poland, but also allowed Reagan to screw over South America in return. Yeah, I think that's why the current Pope was a South American. It was kind of a backlash to a lot of the history. I was watching a report on the last Pope, and they basically said he did what he said he was going to do, which was he stripped a lot of the cardinals ships from Europe and gave them other places like Asia and trying to recognize the Catholic Church is a little bit more worldwide and needs more diverse representation on who picks the next pope. And it was like out of the 135 cardinals, I think it is, this pope, the last pope, appointed 105 of them. So it's like all people that are of his mindset and vision for that. So, yeah, there's a lot of dark history here between America and the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church is one of those few religious organizations that also has an embassy. It's like it's its own nation. The Vatican is its own nation, so it's like it has that kind of power. My dad faked being a Christian my whole life because he loved my mom and enjoyed some of the guys in church. He told me he was an atheist a few months before he passed. Asherah, I could see that. I can absolutely see that being much more common than you think. Um, I I genuinely think there's a lot of people that use church as a social hub. This is why deconversion is very interesting to me, because sometimes there's no deconversion really required. It's more of a coming to terms that there were other alternatives. Uh, but atheism has such a stigma against it that a lot of people keep it. If you did, there's a lot of people in certain social contexts, if they didn't believe in God, they would keep it to themselves. Like, I can't imagine being an atheist in a Muslim country. Like, if you don't believe in God in a Muslim country, you're keeping that shit to yourself. Okay. Otherwise it could get really, 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 really bad. Cool. Super progressive. So he lived his life as it wasn't hampered by Christianity. Yeah, I think I could see that. There's a lot of people like that. A lot of people in my last church were that way. They were very progressive and liberal, but they were also Christians. So really, see, I've never really looked at it. The moment somebody said Trump came out with a Bible, I was like, okay, well, there's the end of Christianity right there. So yeah, a lot of people go in standing for community, totally political reasons, social reasons, networking reasons. I knew businessmen that were part of the church because it was a good networking site and they got a lot of their business through the church. So to them, it was like going to a weekly get together to make new business contacts. So yeah, there's a lot of people that understand business is about relationships, and so they go to church. So rather, so I would rather go to an atheist guy. I don't need to sit there for an hour or two and listen to a guy lie to me about that time. Yeah, I get it, Star Song. You and me both. I haven't darkened the door of a church since the day after my last Sunday, except for once, and that was for an anniversary party for a couple that I knew, and so I wasn't there for religious reasons, but it still took a lot. And then recently, I went to my granddaughter's play, and it's inside an old church that's been converted into a theater. And I had problems going through the door, but after I got in and see that they had completely changed it, it wasn't like church-like at all anymore. I was fine. So, but yeah. Let's see. That's how Hillsong got so big, as they focus more on the community aspect. It frustrates me when somebody just does church stuff and no other social stuff. Yes. This is, you bring up one for me. This is one of my struggles because I have because I was so long in the church, I have a hard time thinking of how to socialize. And I'm autistic and don't like crowds either. So, but I have a hard time thinking about how to socialize outside of the church. And I think that's part of my problem. I talked to my therapist about this one quite a bit. Is how do I learn how to socialize outside the church? Because for like 40 some years, I couldn't conceive of having a social life outside of it. So it's one of those issues that hits a lot of us deconverting people. So there's that. Humans are inherently an emotional species. Religion and cults exist preying on emotional vulnerability. I agree with that. We tend to go on instinct and emotion, which can be our strength too. But when it comes to religion, it's definitely something that they tap into. Oh. So the Trump Bible, $60. Jesus. With as much money as had, I thought he'd be giving them away for free. But yeah, okay, got to make another buck. See, I often wonder how he's holding that Trump empire together with his finances anymore. Yeah, I'm a rabid atheist, and then people come here and get disappointed about the rabid part because it's a play on my last name. It's not really, it's not really my personality at all. I'm not like screaming into the microphone. I'm not yelling at people. If I'm rabid about anything, it's, setting the record straight about what atheism is. And I have gotten angry on a couple occasions with people, but it's like, yeah, I'm not into that. And so they come here expecting a fight and then they don't get one. Because usually, if you start preaching, my mods kind of jump on that shit pretty quick and bye, time out, go sit in the corner for a while, rethink your life decisions. But yeah, and then of course closed captioning doesn't help because it comes off as rabbit atheist, which is why fangs exists. so, so yeah. Yeah, Michael. The thing about the Bible is it's very flexible. I can tell you that as somebody with a biblical studies degree and a theological studies degree, it's very flexible. And the problem is it's the contradictions that do that because okay, how do you reconcile a contradiction? Well, you come up with some outlandish bullshit that reconciles it. And then that becomes a theology or a doctrine. But yeah, you can edit the Bible. Like the slave Bible, I remember, who was it? It was Redeemed Zoomer talked about the slave Bible and he completely got it wrong. Like they didn't edit the actual Bible part of the slave Bible. What they did is they put commentary and notes and put an emphasis on the parts of the Bible that supported and built up slavery. So like a slave Bible it's still the King James version of the Bible. It's just they added a whole bunch of crap to it, to emphasize the slavery part, there's a study or something in there about going through all the verses and that support slavery. And that's why you're a slave and it's okay. So, so I've seen that too. It's the same social reinforcements. I remember when I watched like a couple of things of the atheist church, I'm like, well, it's still church. It's just they're not talking about nonsensical stuff. I don't know if anybody can lie for 1 or 2 hours except for a few people. Preachers and politicians pull it off, but let's see. I was part of North Point Church with Andy Stanley when I became an atheist. I lost my community and started attending there because we didn't live close, so I couldn't attend the other women's Bible studies. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I see it. Yep, going to church. Any positive takeaways from religious organizations? I have this argument with people often in the sense that if whatever positive you talk about with a religion, could it be done without the religion? And if the answer is yes, then the religion is not necessary. Okay, it's just there. And I think good people do good things, and if they use the platform of the church to do good things, I don't think that's a reflection on the religion. I just think that's a reflection on human beings. So, I with all the crap out there, I try to remember that 90 to 95% of human beings didn't do a shitty thing today. So, like they did all right. Yeah. So, oh, uh, one positive: Catholics have fresh fries and cheap beer. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. In fact, I was perusing. Oh gosh, where was it? There was a big. Oh yeah, there's like this video game, computer game that your whole purpose is to build a monastery that produces really really good beer to keep the monastery afloat. So yeah, I've made that notation that alcohol hasn't always been there. That I often wondered why medieval monasteries existed, and then I realized, oh, they're producing all the alcohol, so of course they exist. Um, so yes. Ooh. If blissful ignorance is a good thing, then religion offers something good. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I have never. I guess I'm far too curious, and always have been, to think ignorance was ever a good thing. Um, I don't consider ignorance necessarily malicious. Like if you're willfully ignorant and just ignorant, that's one thing. Willful ignorance is another. Let's see. I don't have trouble socializing with people, but I don't really go out much. Local Pride Fest and Summerfest and anime cons are the major times I go out. Herman on video games. Otherwise, Rinka, I can relate. I can relate. Uh, uh, um, I think. See, I really do think that this is part of my problem is I spent so much time where the only social avenue I had was church, and now it's very difficult to figure out what to do now. It's part of my reconstruction is figuring out a community. I mean, you guys are a great community. I've got a good community here around the channel. Good people. Love y'all. And that's really helped me a lot in rebuilding a community. But, actual shaking hands and hugging people's necks community, I don't have that. No. So, um, you'd easily become a nun if we ran gardens full of weed. Have the beer. I want the chill shit. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I can see it. I can see the nuns doing weed and drugs. I can see that. I've watched a lot of funny movies since I've deconverted about nuns. So like you get all nuns always seem to get this, like they're a more holy vibe. And yeah, that's bullshit. So I don't know if we're objectively good. I don't know if that matters. It's like I said, everybody wants to sit there and make objectively better than subjective, and I don't know if that's true. I think subjective morality has some strong points, like it's flexible enough to change with new information, whereas objective good, what do you mean by that? And two, is it even good? So I've been, of course, everybody knows I've been going around and around with this for years because I don't really think there's a good answer. Um, so I I think you can say that certain things are objectively wrong based on the fact they always harm people, but I'm purposely ignorant about certain things. Philosophy is one of them, and the feeding, mating habits of most parasites. Oh, Earl. Oh. IIRC nuns were essentially where the widows and lesbians would go to take a vow of celibacy, aka way to get. I can see that too. Um, we know for a fact. I know for a fact that medieval Europe, a lot of nunneries were just havens for that kind of behavior. Sending somebody to a nunnery, for instance, for weird things, you know, sexual infidelity, whatever, intermarriage, things like that was very common. You know, young virgins not being virginal on their wedding night, that tended to be a thing. So it's like you're sending people who are interested in sex to a nunnery. I wonder how that's going to go. Um, yeah, and you got the examples of like men taking holy orders for political reasons, and then not, the vows are just optional. They're more like guidelines than actual rules. So poor Earl. I feel sorry for you. Some of the things that get under your skin and give you the creepy crawlies are kind of interesting. They do to me too. And I can do dabs, concentrate, but I don't like the smell. Funny, while smoking high nuns would be funny to watch for a bit. Did a video on cooties and I couldn't finish it because I broke out in hives. There's an actual thing called cooties. I used to think that was stuff that we did on the playground. So, but yeah. All right. I'll make sure I didn't miss anything up to this point. Oh man, yeah, it's just been a wild week. But yeah, it's not the scientific term. Okay, I just wanted clarification. Like talking about cooties, and I'm like, what? Do we just go back to second grade? Yeah, I mean, Ashero, I mean, I got a community here of atheists too. I'm going to tell you in my chat, I know I have some very diametrically opposed, like social political views, but everybody still agrees to kind of respectfully treat each other as a human being. But yeah, a lot of those guys also have communities that are good. The Harmonic Atheist has probably got one of the best, and that's because he focuses on it. His whole thing is about telling the stories. And when I did my interview with him, it was one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had on YouTube, was doing my interview with him. So he's a great, great guy. And I'm sorry he's going through so much shit right now. And it's all because of his former religion too. You know, it's like, yeah, there's what religion gets you, an awful, nasty divorce. So, you know, it's like, yeah. People like religion because it makes him life and more special than other life on the planet. Yes, I've had that argument with somebody. It's like, no, because they always like, well, we're more humble because we bow to God. I'm like, no, you're more arrogant because you assume that there's a God to bow to and that he thinks you're his friend. You think that he's your friend. You think he's going to do stuff for you. He's going to save you compared to everybody else. And somehow you have a better morality and a better life system because you believe. That's not humility. That's arrogance. I'm Asher. I'm glad you found something. But yeah, you're welcome to stop by here if you need community. it's why I do this stream in particular. It's my 1 week stop to kind of hang out with people I care about. Um, none of them I've actually met, but I try to treat them as human beings. We've met here, we talk here, we've developed connections here, and that's good. It's a good thing. Safe environment too. Cooties are a parasite, kind of like a slimy version of fleas. I'm going to trust your godlike knowledge as ahead of mine. So we seem to have a disagreement whether cooties are an existent thing or not. I do not know. I remember there was an expose once of like there was a monastery and a nunnery that were really close together, like they were only like 100 yards apart, and they discovered a tunnel between them. And one of the I wish I had the citation though, so I don't want to really spread misinformation or rumors, but somebody said that within the walls of that tunnel were like tons of skeletons of babies that the nuns had, and they just let them die, kind of thing. So I can see that happening. It's not an unrealistic scenario, but I know that it probably happens because you got nunneries and there's a priest on campus. And, if I'm a priest and I'm surrounded by 20 women, I can see how that could go real sideways real quickly, So yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of shit that's happened over the years in lots of different contexts. So, but yeah, there's all kinds of things that I think this is the largest problem of the Catholic Church is they need to dump the celibacy thing as necessary. If they got rid of that, they would clear up a few problems, but a lot probably. I'm not gonna. Yes, I do remember that there was a story of the Catholic. I mean, the Catholic Church hasn't had a problem sponsoring certain governments that are very brutal, as long as the leader was Christian. I mean, the whole medieval history is, especially like the Viking era, where you have the Christians versus the pagans, is this idea of like Christians don't have to treat pagans like human beings. There's a lot of unofficial stories about the stuff that Catholics have done over the years. So, and some that are well documented. So, termite bridge. The termites did a bridge. Huh? Oh, shit. I just find it's fascinating to me that the largest biomass on the planet of a certain type of creature is like ant types. Like if you even with all the humans, it's like if you add up all the ants and stuff, they still outweigh us all. So I've always found that creepy and fascinating at the same time. Cooties both do and do not exist. Shit. Oh, so they called lice cooties, and that's probably where it came from. All right. You always thought that Mighty Felber says I always thought cooties was just another word for germs. See, I'm learning. I'm learning here. Boobies are real birds too. Yes, they are. Anything tiny and gross is a cootie to you, Earl. Okay. Yeah, Ireland, Canada, Australia. Yeah, those. See, I can't imagine what a nun would do with a baby. How would you? I mean, it would explain why a lot of nunneries also have orphanages attached to them. Where did the orphans come from? That becomes a very interesting question, doesn't it? It's interesting how these different you have an orphanage, you have a nunnery, you have a monastery, you have all this stuff going on. Where did some of this stuff come from? You have babies that are slaughtered at times. So I don't know. Nope, slime. I want to make a channel about roly-polies. I have 2 terrariums and I'm about to construct it. Oh, well, hell. Okay. Keep me posted. See, when it comes to insects, me and Earl are kind of there. Like, when something touches my skin that's like a bug, yeah, it creeps me out. Except at the same time, from a visual point of view, I'm absolutely fascinated at what's going on. So, the blue-footed booby would make a great, yeah, for some channel. Yes, there is that game called Cootie. I remember that. I don't know if it still exists. I'd have to look it up. Yes, good old Catholic Church has horror stories wherever it goes. So, yes, a lot of our biomass isn't human either. But I remember somebody broke down the biomass on the planet, and of the animal mass, it's like ants. Ants are number one. Like, they have taken over the planet, and we go about our business, and they're just running shit. Yeah, there's definitely a fight between those that were Catholic and those that weren't, and so yeah, definitely still haven't. But there was plenty of people that, as Kyle points out, there's plenty of religious folks that have killed people in the name of their religion over the years. So, the conspiracy theory about the Pope is that D-Day Vance. I can see that. Oh, where do they come from, these conspiracy theories? And then I think about it, oh, it's easy, bad logic. Are related to lobsters? Okay. Come from the coal mines, also next to the Nunnery orphanage. Yeah, see, it's interesting how, like, the Catholic Church has funded some of its stuff with business. We were talking about beer earlier. Like, the Catholic Church would make beer, they would make wine, they would make, they would have like mining and stuff nearby, and kids would be in the mines. And where are these kids coming from? Is a good question. And it's like, Sister Mary Frances disappears for a year. She's gone into seclusion to get closer to God. It's like, I don't know. See, that's what bothers me about that whole situation. Like, when you look at how the Catholic Church treated the natives in Canada, it's like, holy shit, it's where did all this come from, kind of thing. You've inoculated us all against cooties. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Fred says, thanks, Mom. Morning, Kyle. That's also a possibility. I had people, Ronald, that, you think your mom went to church to get away from your dad. I had people that came to church and their spouses didn't come. And I often wondered as a pastor if that was the reason, like they just wanted to get away from their spouse for a while. And so when you look at the reasons people go to church, when we talk about whether the church is going to die, I don't know. There's a lot of necessary social functions that churches do. And, not necessarily religion, but church does. But the problem is a lot of churches are based on some sort of religion. So I don't know. I don't see it as not unusual. I can absolutely think that was a very usual practice. Like, people would go to church. I know that they sent their kids to our Sunday school to get away from their kids. It's free babysitting. So I can also see where a spouse would like, yeah, I want to get away from my husband and my wife for a bit, so I'm going to go to church, kind of thing, because it's one of those things that a spouse isn't going to question. Like they're not going to say, well, you shouldn't go to church and shit. It's like they're not going to do that. They're going to say, okay, see you later. And so there's that. Yeah, I had a patient who would come to the ER and get away from her family. Okay. Let's say so the ER can double in that function. Awesome. Even cranky elder gods can't get away from their dogs when they, even when they go to the bathroom. There you go. I think my parents put us in Sunday school so they get some alone time. They never went to church themselves. That is possibly a very real possibility. I'm going to tell you, Fred, that's possible. I mean, if you're at church for 2 hours, that's plenty of time to do a lot of things as a married couple. I'm just saying it. So, and just get rid of you kids and go do what they want. So, did he call the Cardinals peasants? Did he? They did let you quit it, though? Okay. See, Kyle says, when my dad, good old JW, was sending pamphlets all over my house, and I was way too young to know who or what they were. Oh, yeah, it's, man, the most crappy thing I ever see preachers do, and now it just infuriates the hell out of me, is when they use a funeral as an opportunity to preach the gospel. It's like, dude, inappropriate, very inappropriate, but they do it anyway because they'll justify it. And a whole bunch of people, yeah, that's when you need to preach the gospel, is when somebody's died. Like, all right. Getting away from the dog. Their huskies push the door open. Yeah, see. You're welcome. You're welcome, Dave. I'm just saying, I knew, like, I was running a Sunday, when I was a Christian education pastor, I had 85 people in my Sunday school, 55 of which were children. Okay. And I would look at the adult classes, and it'd be like, none of the parents for these kids are here. So I wonder what the hell they were doing for that hour and a half, I mean, when you work all week, it would be like an hour and a half you as a couple would have to yourselves. So, yeah. so there's that. What would you do? Yeah. Our Big Meat Jesus campaign. Welcome to the South. Yeah. They have that up here too. There's a couple preachers that when I know they're doing the funeral, I'm like, oh my God, I've already got my plan for some of them that I'm going to put an earphone in my ear and have something else playing while I'm waiting for them to get the part where they're going to talk about the person that died. I got better things to listen to, like, Metallica, For Whom the Bell Tolls, or something like that. More, I'll get more mood music that's more appropriate. All right, folks, it's been an hour and almost 25 minutes, so I've got to take off. It's my Friday at work, but I've got to get ready for work and head out and do the things that I do to keep the Rabyd Atheist functioning on planet Earth. So thank you very much, everybody, for the stream. It was a good one. A lot of good discussion topics. Appreciate every single one of you that stopped by today. This has been a great stream. I love meeting here on Thursdays and talking to all of you. Thank you to all who donated. I think I'm like 4 super chats away from a second hat reveal, which I'm going to do Saturday. I did get to do it on Easter, which was a crying shame. Finally got the hat. It's gorgeous, lovely, and absolutely hilarious. And you'll see it Saturday. So thank you very, very much. So thanks for that. Thank you, Earl. Appreciate it. But everybody have a great evening. Enjoy the good weather here in the United States. Some of you are experiencing a lot of that. Thank you, Fred. Appreciate it. Yeah, but get out and enjoy life. This is the only one you get. So, but thanks for stopping by. The next time stream will be me and I Killed Earl on Saturday at 6, and we'll be talking autism. And thanks to Earl, she reminded me that AMA stands for Ask Me Anything, and so we'll be doing a pretty open forum on autism. Unfortunately for me, my political science brain has all these abbreviations for the alphabet swoop of government and various lobbying organizations like the AMA. So there was that. So, but we'll be doing that in a couple days. So make sure you hit your notification bell for that and come on by, and we'll be glad to have everybody. But thank everybody for stopping by. Appreciate all of you. Hit that like button. Make sure it's consensual. But as we point out, the like button is very, very consensual. She likes to be touched. So there's that. So make sure you do that. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and then it's over. So make sure you're taking all your time, money, and opportunities and spending them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do, and don't spend them on the trappings of religion and faith and all that stuff, or figuring out who the next pope is going to be, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, folks, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch all of you next time.